Hello, it is Throwback Thursday, November 5th, 2020. Steve Sipress throwing it back to 5 years ago, minus about 10 days, when my beautiful wife Michelle and I moved from Illinois to here in way too sunny Arizona, which, by the way, we set a record today for the hottest day in the recorded history of November. I think it hit a high of 98 degrees here today. Come on, man. What are you talking about? Anyway, so I happen to have lived, I thought about this, I have lived for at least 15 years of my life each in three different single party rule states, which happen to be single party of loving bigger and more imposing government, less personal freedom, more taxation, more spending, more deficit spending, more debt, more hopelessly, practically going bankrupt states of New York, where I was born. Then after graduating high school, I moved up to Boston and lived in Massachusetts for another 17 years or so, stayed there after school, and moved around a little bit. And then in about 2001, I moved to Chicago and left there in 2015, so just under 15 years in Chicago. So 14 years or more in three different single-party anti-personal freedom states, at which point said to my beautiful wife Michelle, and she said to me, we looked at each other and said, we got to get out of here. And we chose, could have moved anywhere, and we chose Arizona. At the time, just 5 years ago, hard to believe, Arizona had a Republican governor, two Republican senators, mostly Republican Congress people, a Republican controlled state legislature, and plenty of laws that were really foreign to me, coming from almost 15 years in Chicago, being pro-business, pro-personal freedom, making it was so much easier to do business here in Arizona than it is in Illinois, and so much less costly, so many fewer regulations and rules and constraints on doing business and growing business and living a life with a fair amount of personal freedom, fairly low taxes, I think among the lowest 10 states in the country in taxes, not one of the zero states, zero state income tax, but close to it. Anyway, that's just a mere 5 years ago. Fast forward to now. Now, I know they're still counting the votes, or I haven't paid attention all day, so I don't know if they're done with it or if they're, everyone's going to challenge it and go to court and back and forth and whatever. But as of when I checked through yesterday, I was like, let me just check on one of these, on a local website, because I like to see who I voted for that won or lost. Again, you can check back to my video from yesterday with how much that matters, which is zero to any successful entrepreneur. We want to know who's in office so we know what strategies and tactics to use over the next given number of years or so, but it's not going to cause us to not be successful. How silly would that be? But a lot of people make that choice, actually, and they choose to be controlled or ruled or influenced by whoever's in some kind of government office. However, overall, it's just a nice feeling of personal freedom to be here in Arizona versus government choking out personal freedom in Illinois, where I was last. And yet now, fast forward 5 years ahead after we moved here, there's still a Republican governor, and there is still just barely a Republican-controlled state legislature. But we now have not one but two, we're about to, I believe, have two Democrat liberal senators, including one who is about to become our newest one, just elected, I believe. Again, I don't know, haven't kept up with whether they're done counting and fighting and arguing and suing over the results, but it looks like we're going to have a senator who will be the number one anti-gun Democrat senator in the United States. And so what the heck is going on? Not that I'm a big, gun guy or whatever, but it's just a point of the Bill of Rights, personal freedom. Our government was designed, and is fantastic, I believe, designed to, our Constitution and Bill of Rights, to limit government encroaching into our lives, government control in our lives. The Constitution is, the Bill of Rights is not about the government. It's not about what the government can do. It's about what the government can't do to improve, preserve personal liberty. And so it remains to be seen, but I was saying I was checking through this website for the local elections, and it seemed to be just about every single one of these local elections around here, just barely, but they seem to all go to the liberal side, like by just a few hundred votes for these county assessor and, state government seats and the state attorney of whatever and the controller of treasurer, so, basically meaningless things. But I'm like, wow, it says something that people just blindly, because nobody knows any of these people for the most part, so all of those are blindly party rules. I mean, if I'm going to vote for somebody who's going to be a treasurer, and I don't know anything about them personally, I'm going to check off and vote for the more conservative one. I just believe that would make sense, that they would be more conservative than liberal with taxation and spending and government taking over more and more of my life. But it seems to be that I now live in a state where the majority of people, just a small majority, but the majority of people don't like themselves, apparently. They don't trust themselves. They don't want more personal freedom. They believe the government should control more of what they do and what everyone else around here does. And that's just not really shocking, but it's a big change. And it would be one thing if it was going back and forth. It was close, but it might swing next time or whatever. But unfortunately, this is a trend. Like I said, 5 years ago, both senators Republican, and then one replaced with a Democrat. Now the next one replaced with a Democrat, and things just keep moving in the more liberal, higher tax. We even had a proposition on the ballot. I talked about this if you were with my video a couple of days ago, or I just put it on a post on Facebook. How did this thing even get on the ballot? We actually had a proposition on the ballot. I'm pretty sure it got soundly defeated. It was a ridiculous proposition that would almost double the amount of personal income tax that business owners would have paid, making it the highest taxed state in the country for business owners. I'm like, are you kidding? What is going on to this state that I thought I moved to get away from big government, out of control tax and spending? Illinois, Massachusetts, New York, where people ask me sometimes, oh, you're from New York, how come you don't want to live there? Like, really? So we're not anywhere near that bad of Illinois, Massachusetts, or New York here. That's not happening anytime soon that I can see. But the writing's on the wall. I mean, we have our bordering state here to the west, California, one of the most mismanaged, worst run, absolutely the worst state for anyone that cares about personal freedom by far in the country. And so the whole state has been destroyed by its one-party rule government that is pretty much destroying the whole state. And so people are fleeing like crazy, and we happen to be a bordering state. So a lot of these Californians are displacing themselves to here. But unlike we left Illinois because the state was ruined by the single-party, ridiculously anti-personal freedom liberal government, and we came to somewhere and appreciate the fact that this state is more pro-personal freedom. Californians, a lot of them, apparently come in, they get into the voting booth, and they forget that they came here to get away from the high taxation and high regulation and increasing government control, choking out personal freedom and personal responsibility. And they're susceptible to certain buzzwords like, oh, let's take money out of all the constituents' pockets to somehow come up with a solution for the changing climate. When, of course, that's not a government role. Government should have no role in that at all, except as a cheerleader for business, for the private sector, that, of course, is working on and will continue to work on and will always continue to work on better and better sources of energy. Government should have nothing to do with stealing money out of our pockets to do that. Or, we should have more restrictions on gun control. We should have more restrictions on these buzzwords. They just can't help themselves but want bigger government and more control, whether it's gun control or taxation control or more control, and I guess they can't help themselves. They get in the voting booth and they vote for the same type of politicians that they just left a state that was ruined by these type of politicians, and they vote for them here. So anyway, that's my Throwback Thursday for today. Man, my email and text messages and private messages and social media just blowing up with all kinds of friends and neighbors and everyone I know here going, time to move, time to leave. I guess we got to go. We can take a hint. Where people are asking me, where are you going to? I got a good friend and a longtime client in Florida who laughed at me with a post on Facebook, a comment, and said, I tried to get you to move here to Florida years ago and you blew it. And actually, it was about 10 years ago or so, we actually went down to Florida and we put a deposit down on a home. And then I had a competitor ramp up trying to destroy my business back up in Chicago. I was going to run it remotely. And I said, no, I have to be here to fight this battle. And we got our deposit back. And then the next time we looked to get out of Illinois to a warmer climate and all, we came here, where my beautiful wife Michelle has lots of family members, because Midwest people tend to come down here for winters. Some move here permanently. I, being an East Coast person, my beautiful wife Michelle from Milwaukee originally, I being an East Coast person, we tend to stay on the East Coast and go down to Florida. But anyway, wondering where to next, and will it even be somewhere in the U.S., because the whole country continues to move towards this anti-American stance of less personal freedom and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger government. Anyway, that's it for Throwback Thursday. I wish I had an end on a happier note. Well, I'll end on a happy note, which is no matter how much the government attempts to restrict our personal freedom, no matter how tough they make it with their absurd rules and increasing regulations to strangle business owners, we don't let it stop us. It could be easier, of course, somewhere else, but I will never let it stop me, and hopefully you don't let it stop you. And that'll do it. Hey, thanks for the likes. Everyone here watching live. I don't see any questions, comments, concerns. Sometimes Facebook just doesn't show me them for some reason. And but post any comments, questions, concerns, feedback, anything at all, positive, negative, indifferent. It's all good to me. Below, wherever you're watching this, reading it, listening to it, please subscribe to whatever page or my blog or my podcast or social media or follower or whatever you do, so you can always be notified and you can come on here live and we can talk and go back and forth. I always enjoy that. Otherwise, that'll do it for Throwback Thursday. I'll be back tomorrow on Foundation Friday. Thanks for being here today. I will catch you tomorrow. Over and out. Bye-bye.